I had met him a few times. I worked with Agnieszka Holland on Europa, and she's a very good friend of his, and we had dinner a few times and stuff. And I had auditioned for Double Life of Veronique, but he was looking for someone very different than me, and so it didn't work out. But he always told me, I want to work with you eventually. And I read White and loved it, and I decided to do the film. Krzysztof was really great. The way he directs actors is very controlling, but with me, he let me a little free sometimes in the love scene and things like that, because he felt if he was too controlling, it would not work out like organically. It wouldn't work, you know? But he was very controlling to the point that I remember I had a scene where I had to have an orgasm and I screamed like crazy. And that was, of course, his will. I didn't decide to scream like crazy like this. But I remember he was always right under the camera, directing you. So you had literally his face like this far away from you, always, at all time, especially in close-ups. He was like smoking. That's why there's a kind of a nice kind of like diffuse lighting in all his films. Really, the secret is that he chained smoke. Like he would be right under the camera, and I remember that after 10 seconds, he wanted me to moan a little louder, so he was like, with his clock, with his watch, and be like making signs. Okay, now I'm supposed to moan a little louder. Then after 20 seconds, I had to moan like really loud. And then after 30 seconds, I had to scream at the top of my lungs. And he would be like giving me signs. So it's, you know, for some people it seems distracting, but really what's worse for an actor is to feel you get no attention from the director, I think. You know, where you feel like the director really is like in a room 2 miles away, watching on a screen, and, you know, having coffee and talking with someone else, you know, and that's what, you know, here it's like the opposite. Like he was giving you full attention, 100%, which is a nice feeling. I mean, sometimes it's distracting, but like at the same time, it's a wonderful feeling. You feel loved, you know, by the director. He had like a very dry, dark sense of humor, which I really liked. He was also, as a director, very obsessed with details. I would say obsessive in a good way, because to me being obsessive, I think, is a good thing for an artist. Really true artists, I found, have something a tiny bit obsessive on making the best film possible and, you know, never letting go and having very, very strong ideas. For example, for him, it was very important. Characters were not built from inside out. They were built from outside in, kind of. Like the way people moved was very important for him. Like if I say goodbye to someone, I would say like this, not like this. The actor, Zbigniew Zamorowski, was really amazing, really great to work with, really easy to work with. He's got a great sense of comedy, very kind man, very sweet, very helpful. You know, like sometimes I had a few scenes that were more difficult, you know, where I was had to be sexually aggressive, and it's really kind of something that I had never done before, you know, and so, and I've never been sexually aggressive in my life, so anyway, maybe since a little bit, but he was very sweet, he was very helpful, very kind, and a wonderful actor, and he had a sense of drama but also comedy, because he comes from comedy in Poland, so he had a great sense. For me, it was very helpful to work with him. Sometimes I approach characters psychologically, but I know that some directors don't like that, so I didn't want to impose that on him. So I asked him, how do you want me to approach the character? And he's like, well, what does she make you think of? The first idea you have when you read her. And I was like, well, she reminds me of this cat I had when I was a little girl who was literally possessed. She was a monster. She would attack people, and she was so hyper and crazy that all the cats of the neighborhood, she was always in heat, but the cats in the neighborhoods couldn't even get to her because she was so crazy. Like she would attack them instead of having sex with the cats and stuff. So like I was like, she's kind of like that. Like she's in heat, but at the same time she's a nightmare, she's confused, she's angry, you know. And I was like, and he was like, that's exactly what I want. Don't think of anything else. Don't try to look any further than that. I was like, oh, okay, that's great. The only thing that evolved was the end, because he edited the film and decided that there were no closure between them. So he added the scene where he goes to see her at the prison and she makes this little sign language thing that no one seems to know what it's about, but really it's about, or maybe she's lost it, or I mean, from what I understand when we talked was, that she's literally saying to him, you know, we'll get married again when I get out of prison, and this time we'll be fine, you know, kind of. I mean, she still loves him, I think. That's really a message like that and it's white because of equality. White means equality in the French flag, blue, white, red. And equality in a sense which is very dark is that they both, out of life. Like he's out of life because he's supposed to be dead, and she's out of life because she's in jail. So it's kind of a dark ending, but with a little glimpse of hope at the end. He felt that the character was not as awful as it was written. Like I had brought something that was a little bit more human, and he didn't want her to be punished all the way. So we reshoot the end like 6 months later, so he added that end to the film.